Hi, JJ.
Okay. And as you know, the coughing just means there's a lot of purging going on, which means we're cutting off connection to the. There you go. Good purge. Okay. Good.
Right.
Okay. Hello, fellow consciousness. This is the second installment of Ask the Chief. So there's some things I want to cover before we get started. One, I would like to upfront thank those of you who've increased your donation fees on your own, which is very, you know, very, very much appreciated. Thank you for that.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Anyway, and there's some changes that have come about. We're still waiting for certain things to happen before the temple is finished. Some unforeseen obstacles that have arisen over the last several months. So with that happening, we've come to some realization. I've come to some realizations about how some of the sessions, the in-studio sessions, were affecting primarily Ms. A, affect me a bit, but my energy levels are a lot stronger. But they affected Ms. A quite a bit, and also affected the actual room in which we were working. So I am not doing in-studio sessions in the sense of how I used to do them. So those have been canceled. And what I will be doing starting next year will be a in-studio, what do we call it, like package. A package, which just heads up, they're not cheap. They're actually, a bit expensive. And man, we got some interference coming through trying to.
They include a lot of things. The package will include steam room, the healing pool. It'll include gift bags and other goodies that go along with it. It will include a meal that Chief provides and ginger brew, of course. This way, we're protecting ourselves because it took a toll on us, on me mostly.
Yeah, well, there are things like when we decided to move out of the old house that we were working out of, I noticed that the room was like the floorboards were starting to come up in that particular room. And those of you who've had in-studio sessions, there was this lamp, this flower lamp, red flower lamp that I would turn on to light up the room after we turned off the main lights. That once I decided to pack that up, I grabbed hold of it and it turned into dust, literally, in my hands. Now, I bought another one that was around the same time, and that one was in another room. And when I folded that one up, no problems. But when I literally almost just touched that one and just squeezed it a little bit, it just fell into dust. Also, there are issues around gas that will come off of people's bodies, which is like energetic gas, that at times were so toxic that we would have to leave the room and close the door behind us, leaving the client in the room with their gas. There are also, the gas would be so intense at times that it would take to maybe 2 hours at times to clear out the house. And that's how intense the density that some of the clients had brought in on them.
Even a day or two whenever their clothes had to be washed.
Well, yeah, and we had to wash the clothing that we would provide, and to wait to have enough items, to wash in the washing machine. That smell would be in the clothes, so we would end up having to wash them more regularly than we would normally have to wash things as well. Also, for some reason, individuals will come in with 101 questions from Ms. A before the session, and usually about me. And then after the session, 101 questions, or they start asking questions if I had to leave the room to wash my hands and to purge out in the midst of the sessions, all kinds of really weird stuff. Also, I've had instances where things would jump off and hit me, which doesn't freak me out. But again, those types of activities that were going on, and I was basically charging the same fee for doing the Skype sessions as well as in studio sessions, which after the fact was totally ridiculous because I had to put up with a whole hell of a lot more crap with in studio sessions. So this is why I'm changing it. There's no need for and the Skype sessions. Those who've never had studio sessions know that the Skype sessions are very, very effective as well. So at this point, there's no need for us to actually have to go through all of that, if we don't have to. So anyway, that's the update for the studio sessions. And let's see, there are some other updates, but you can find those on the website having to do with certain protocol, because there are certain clients who, older clients, a lot of the times, most everyone else is good. All you guys as a majority are really great. But there are certain individuals who kind of abuse my professionalism and just take it for granted or something, that I'm their buddy. All right, so I want to get this clear. You're either a client or you're a student. You're not my buddy. And when people try to be my buddy, usually they're trying to get more from me than I'm capable or willing to give, which means they're tapping and sucking on my energy without my permission or trying to, which is very, very selfish on their part. So I have quite a few clients, and I can't be everybody's buddy. All right? So with that said, we can get rolling. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
Nothing else. I'll cover small details on the women's forum. If you'd like to jump into the questions or.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there's been some really good questions actually that have been sent. And the first one, I think we get started.
The first one is Mimosa's, and it was, how would a free life look translated into the human experience? Is it possible to live a totally free life?
Hopefully everyone heard that question.
I can speak louder. Okay.
Does anyone need to repeat it?
So this is the question. How would a free life look translated into the human experience? Is it possible to live a totally free life? And
Wow. Okay.
We talked about this before, and you wanted to ask them what they perceive.
Well, yeah, actually, I would like, since this one is, I think I'll direct it to, the one who was asked the question, which is most, if you don't mind me outing you. What is your perception? What is it that you think would be a free life?
Well, free life would be like free from density. Would be my first idea, to be just like aware of actions. What I'm uncertain about is how can I like be here and live this life without feeding density? Like if that is possible, if it is possible to like separate myself from density completely.
Okay. Well, it is true that you can separate yourself from density completely, but again, it has to do, as I mentioned before, and probably during a lot of your sessions, that it has to do with the mind first. How you think, what kind of thoughts you bring in from training, from outside, things that will contaminate, in other words, or try to contaminate what I'm teaching, which basically is bringing your mind, opening your mind up to the reality of what really is going on here. So as far as like what it looks like, and for my experience and my impression of it, a free life literally is free of density, but in order for you to get there, you have to be able to recognize when it's coming, when it's coming forth, even when it's coming out of yourself, and understanding where the roots of it are, or where they come from. But generally, I would say for a free life, I take it out as far as like universal, the Supreme Conscious universe, having to do with this being an anomaly that we're in right now. And Supreme Consciousness universe, as far as like emotions or negative emotions of fear, stress, hate, just basic anger. I know there's a number of other ones that I'm seeing to be like not getting all of them coming up right now. Jealousy, anything that is an emotion that really is uncomfortable, that you don't really like, So no one likes to be envious of anyone. No one likes to be, I don't think, no one likes to be jealous. No one likes to be, in terror. No one likes to be angry. Those are all things that I would call yin introductions into the Supreme Consciousness universe and into this matchbox that's an anomaly. And that's what I consider, the Earth's sphere to be in, or have been in for a very long time, is this little limited matchbox, little limited room, little limited space. So once you understand that all these things have to do with something external, something dense, those type of emotions, when they start to come up, you become aware of them. Becoming aware is the first step. And then understanding that it's not natural. Or if anyone has ever said anything to you, like it's always been anyway, that's the biggest lie in the world. Nothing's always been anything. So, which means that all things can be changed. So when it comes to Supreme Consciousness universe, it's about the 3 E's: express, expand, and experience. That's literally what you are here as a consciousness to do, to express, expand, and experience. All of this negativity is not part of it. This realm sends you in a circle. It's like a rut, which means you never grow. So another thing, I think I don't want to jump off, but we talked about the thing about hopefulness or something like that.
Yes.
That even the concept of hopefulness locks one into this realm. So you watch movies, there's stories, there's the nonsense of happily ever after. And as a little kid, I wonder what is happily ever after? So I thought, well, I guess maybe happily ever after, when the 2 lovers get together, I guess they just die. Because what I experienced was not a happy ever after. And I don't think any of you have experienced anything that resembles a happily ever after, which is another sign of being in a very dense realm, an anomaly in the universe. So as far as like experience, excuse me, a free experience, a free expression means that the doors are open to the reality of the universe, which means unlimited expression, unlimited experiences. And none of those experiences have to do with strife or interfering with another one's trajectory. So I think, is there anything else you want me to you want me to expound on it any more than that, or is that okay?
Yeah, what I'm struggling with at the moment is because I'm transitioning to another job, so I'm looking for a job, and like there are a lot of jobs where I know, okay, these are like the job itself is good, but the companies might not be the best because they're not adding to society, but they're rather distracting. Like, how can I work for a company like that and still live a free life, or do I have to step away completely from those types of things? Or for example, social media, do I have to step away from social media and from all this consumerism to really be a free life? Or is there a way to like balance these things out? Because I mean, at the end of the day, I need a job and I need to earn money, and sometimes you don't have the choice. Yeah. Is there a way to like balance that, or I don't know.
Yes, that's a great question. I'm going to answer it has to do with logic. Okay, you're in a environment or a scenario that calls for needing money to survive, which means you need to get a job and so on and so forth. I mean, there are options, but they're extreme options, so we're just going to go with you wanting to see how far you can go and how much you can evolve within this small expression, which evolving within the small expression with, I say, the Neo Shamanic point of view is very, very, very positive. So one, you're aware that the company may not be contributing to anything good, but I need resources. So what is it that you would like to do that would not, in other words, add to the negativity in the world for yourself, so that you're probably working on this at this job to get the resources that you need to start something of your own? Is that something that's in your mind?
To start something on my own?
Yeah, in other words, if you want to, in other words, you can make resources or get resources, but get resources in the way where you feel that you're not contributing to the detriment of Gaia or contributing to anything negative. There are ways of existing and being without contributing to the negativity. So that would be the first thought. What is it that would make you feel very, very much whole and very satisfied with how you're spending your time here? That would be the first question. What is it that I could do? And I understand if you don't have an answer for it, because when we go through the systems of schools and religion and all these other kinds of institutions, they're all designed to keep you locked down with one mindset, or a limited mindset, I should say. That this is all that there is, and so this is all you have to choose from. What they're doing, they're locking your mind down. So there have been individuals, they'll say, well, I've run into this a long time ago when I was a kid coming up, and there are things I wanted to do and things that I actually succeeded at. But when I was thinking about them, I wanted to share. Fortunately, I had a few people very, very, positive and very, supported me in what in these ideas of what I wanted to do that weren't mainstream. But there were a whole plethora of individuals who were so locked into the program that they were busy pointing at me and telling me that I can't do this because, or I can't do that because of many reasons. They use race, gender, age, and all this stuff to try to keep you locked in and try to keep you from actually trying to experiment or express yourself in the way that's outside of the program. And there are individuals who do express themselves outside the program. Sometimes those individuals are backed by the density in the realm. And certain individuals are who, I'm trying to think of certain things outside of pop culture and whatever, where there are individuals who, let's say, this is a little abstract, not so abstract, but having to do with someone who's so-called a child prodigy. This kid is 3 years old and he can play, European classical music flawlessly on the piano at 3 years old. And, and people say, wow, prodigy, this kid's a genius, and so on and so forth. And they promote that. And what they're doing, they're promoting that to actually bring your energy down because, wow, I'm not a child prodigy. What am I? I'm less. If I was feeling worthless before, boy, I sure feel worthless now. So what I'm saying is that you have to understand that for you to actually be able to be here and not be part of the density, you have to start thinking differently. And you have to think, what is it that I think that I really like to do, and see if I can apply it in this world.
Okay.
Now, is that clear enough? Or I can go further if you want me to.
No, that is clear. Yeah.
So, take the job, get the resources, but have some idea what you want to do.
Yeah.
Instead of being locked into this company or locked into whatever the mode is. I mean, I've been around long enough, to where when I was in elementary school, they were trying to segue us into, I grew up in Michigan and part of the time in Detroit City. So they were trying to segue a lot of the kids into the Ford factory or the GMC, all these, car factories. And that's where we're supposed to spend our lives. When I was in college, I went to the Ford factory to make money to go to school. And while I was there, my goodness, all these workers who, were like leaning on me, you can do 25 years and out, man. This is an easy deal. Do 25 years and out. Like the Ford factory was going to always be there. And I said, I have other things to do. And literally was told by one of the other workers who got stuck there that you don't want to be here. And on your last day, do not accept any invites from these guys because they're going to try to lock you into this system, which he got locked into that system. So the last day of my work, I had to go past this, it's like a railroad tracks and this bar where they wanted to meet. And that was the only way out of the factory. So I'm taking this really serious. I'm really, really nervous what the guy said. And man, I went past that freaking bar doing 70 and crouching down behind the steering wheel just in case these guys wanted to follow me or something. That's how, how whack I was when I was that age. But the thing is that later on, they started laying people off. All of a sudden, these people bought into this dense dream, and then they ended up unemployed. So being segued into a company or something like that, and saying that you have security, there's no such thing as security on this planet. They're into feeding, so they'll get you all, all comfortable. And I got my health insurance. I have to deal with these morons who are supposed to be supervisors and a lot of moronic, coworkers. I'd rather be home doing something else than being here. You put your money into the 401ks and things like that I've known friends had done in the past. And this happened maybe about, that's a while ago now, 15 years ago, whatever, maybe 13 years ago or something like that. Then all of a sudden they looted the 401ks and these people were paying all this money. This realm is designed to feed. It is not designed to be altruistic. There is no altruism here. So you find your own altruism through thinking your way through the system. And this is what I'm about. Teaching you how to think through the system, also clearing the blocks that are in your energy, because it's just a full circle. We're just swimming around in their septic tank, which means if you're swimming around in the septic tank, you're going to get some poo on you. So is that good?
Yes, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. A.
Okay, move on to the next question.
Okay, if you want to. Oh, well, actually, anyone have any questions, pertaining to what I just talked about? And then we can move on to the next question if no one has anything. Okay, great. Next question, please.
Also, what you were talking about is so perfect to
You can speak up loud.
Oh, okay. You had a client that lived in a country where she perceived that the only two options were McDonald's or prostitution. And you helped her through a lot of blockages. So that kind of mindset she had, you saw it as a block in her head where she had been corkscrewed by those around her to think that there's only McDonald's or there's only prostitution. And you helped her. What are your assets? What do you naturally have that no one else has? What can you do that no one else does already? What's something unique that you can do? And then telling her, okay, you're gonna have to get a normal 9-to-5 job at first, but go learn something, go expand, express, and move forward.
Yeah, it's about being stealthy within the realm. So someone may think that you're taking this job on because you want to be, just spend the rest of your life working there. And I've had those experiences as well, where the person who was hiring me asked me what were my plans. And one of the things I learned years ago through some common sense and methods of some of the people who I grew up around, they said, don't tell them what your plans are. If someone's asking you what your plans are and you don't feel like it's necessary for them to know, don't tell them. So I had been hired at a company when I lived in Los Angeles, and the person wanted to know if I was going to, my plans were just to drop my hat there and just be there, until the end, until I retired. And I would just say, I would just kind of like dance around the question. I said, well, I'm not really sure, but I did know for a fact that I wanted to just make a certain amount of money to get the hell out of Los Angeles at the time. But if I told them that, I don't know if I would have gotten a job or whatever, so you just play along, and it's called stealth. You just play along with something to get what you need. And again, we're in a very limited realm at this particular point in time. And, and for me to actually get where I'm at, I definitely am free. I am living a free existence within all of this nonsense. But it took me a good while to actually understand how to do it. But I'm just going to tell you the things that I learned so that you can get there sooner than I did. And I don't feel like I wasted time. I learned from everything, I've done. And even in the sense of what I do, some individuals, that's another reason where I'm no longer doing in the studio, because I've had practitioners of energy work or Reiki or whatever, and they wanted to consider themselves to be a comrade, and they wanted to try to put me in a box, and I don't exist in any boxes. What I do does not exist anywhere on this planet. Bottom line, So I tapped into what I felt was the most interesting thing and the most rewarding thing. And I pursued it. But during that time, I did other things. I ran a business. I worked for other companies before I started running a business. I worked for those companies so I could, establish myself so that I didn't have to work for those companies. I didn't have to go into a 9-to-5 and listen to a bunch of boring ass people talk about the same boring ass stuff 5 days a week, and then go on the weekends and try to figure out how I'm going to, relax and escape all this stuff in 2 days, and then have to go back to the same nonsense again. So again, that was just basically, I guess,
outro of
the question. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go into actually another. But again, if you have any questions, Ms. A will look at the screen. If you want to raise your hand, you can just raise your hand, and she'll will fund. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anyone?
Okay. Not yet.
So, all right.
Okay,
So,
the next question.
Anyway, so the next question.
Okay, it's would density ever leave a body if they can't feed off of that body anymore?
Oh, okay, that's another good question. The reality of the matter is that it depends. Some people have density that's interwoven into their energy. And that's what my sessions are about. I know that there's a number of you who have experienced me ripping those things out, because they'll talk about smack, Ms. A will empath them, and they'll just like, it can't get rid of me, or, I literally have them curse at me and all this other stuff, which is basically their posturing. And I just pull them out, and I pull them out piece by piece. And those of you who have experienced it, you know what that sounds like. So there's certain things that will jump out of you when you're coming, or even when you're actually ready to have a session on Skype. I've had individuals, who have had been possessed, and someone would tell me that person is possessed. They're not the same person. Can you have a session with this individual? And so I said, I know what they're going to do. Whatever's in there, because they know about me, they're going to pop out of there. But they don't get away. So the person will, ready to have the session, say, hello, how are you? All of a sudden, the person who belongs to their body is talking to me. So they will jump out of you, but if they jump out of you, they're going to come back at some point if they're not taken care of, which means I take care of them permanently. So that's why I am not in any category of any healer on this planet. I've met a number of healers. Some consider themselves, older guys consider themselves just, real pros. And then they'll tell me about taking something out and throwing it out a window and hitting a dog, and hear the dog yelp, and they said, "Oh, victory, I got it out." I said, "But you didn't get rid of it. So what does it do?" If there's a deal made, its density is very much like this realm. This realm is patterned after the density on the other side, mind you. They'll make a deal. Sometimes they'll make a deal like, okay, if you get out, we'll offer you this, whatever, because they have their own commodities. Most of it, well, not most of it, all of it has to do with consumption of energy. So consumption of your energy. And they'll offer up your energy to another one if you have these densities that are around you. So guy threw the thing out, hits the dog yelps. It just waits and decides, okay, maybe I have a deal, and I just jump back in and start to infest another organ on the person's body, or I'll find another host. So the reality is that the question was primarily,
would they ever leave the body? But there's also, you referred to as a dense on dense, where the
oh, right. Right, there's also everyone has their attachments that they haven't gone through, through my process. They all have attachments. Even when you're going through my process, I'm pulling out layers of attachments, and they have agreements with one another, and they have a hierarchy very similar to what they have on this planet. So a rogue, and there are wanderers of density, so a rogue entity, dense entity, will come and try to maybe attach themselves to you at some kind of a function, but you already have your own density on there, and a fight will ensue. Depending on how strong your density is, if your density is pretty strong, it'll basically chase off the other one that's trying to offend you, because you're their banquet. They're feeding off of you, and this is I'm the only one who's going to be at this feeding trough. So that happens as well. Or you'll end up in a situation where you walk into a zone where there are much more intense densities who will come in, and that's where a lot of times we'll end up with, possession, or just something dense pushing out or pushing aside. A lot of the times they'll push aside the other density that's already on you. So very seldom do they cast the original density out, but they'll make some kind of deal where it's like, I'm the boss now, and you work for me, and you gather crumbs for me, and the density that's on you will go out and feed off of other people, unsuspecting people. So again, I think I might have mentioned it last time when I tell someone, I said, you're being fed off of something's just eating your energy, and they'll go into, oh, I'm a victim, oh, I'm being fed on, and I'm innocent. When in reality, no one's really innocent, because it's the big fish feeding off of the medium-sized fish, feeding off the smallest fish, and so on and so forth. So when it comes into a person might say, well, how am I feeding? Well, if you've ever complained to someone about your life, that's feeding. But also, again, there's no set rules. We have instances where someone is complaining to another person, and that person is not telling them much of anything. They're just sitting there listening. That person is actually consuming your grief. They're feeding off of you. And how you find out is if you stop, talking to those individuals, they'll call you up and say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. It means I haven't fed off you in a while. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers that one as far as I can see. Any questions on that? Any need to clarify? Okay, so.
That comes on in the line of
Louder.
what are different ways that people feed on one another or push each other's buttons? The different forms of communication, feeding from photos, calling people, videos, things like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I covered quite a bit of it, but the feeding through photos. Oh, yeah, and you were talking about, mostly we're talking about social media. And that's a big, feeding frenzy there. There are individuals, let's see, I think I can just bring up an anecdotal one that I had a client, actually the first Ask the Chief forum, the reason Ms. A was in the middle, in the camera trying to fix everything up is because I had a client that was, his last session, he was quite rude. And he was angry about something and he wanted to take it out on me, and I don't allow it. So I literally told him that he's off the, the Ask the Chief forum, and he threw a hissy fit and started texting and sending texts and calling like minutes before the Ask the Chief forum. And so we weren't able to get everything set up because of this individual who I inevitably cut him off my client list, and we blocked him. And that's what happens to people who are a real pain in the butt to me. They get blocked. So this individual, he had an experience where he was on social media, and there was this woman, this really attractive woman, and I forgot, she was talking about something about mysticism or whatever, and he found himself totally entranced with this woman and couldn't get her out of his mind, had dreams about her, and she ended up, so he was asking me about it, and I looked into it. Ended up that she was, like a classic succubus, more like a siren, but I guess a succubus siren, someone who was actually feeding off of the attention that she was getting from these men. And I recall she had thousands of followers and views, and I can guarantee you that the majority of them were men. And she was also feeding off of him, so when I disconnected and I deleted her energy, her juice, all of a sudden it stopped. He stopped thinking about her, he stopped having dreams about her. So that's one way with social media, someone can feed off of your energy. And then also there are those who, if you have a social media page, who will send weird texts, weird messages. And or they'll criticize you in some way, and you'll feel funny. You'll feel just fine up until you read that. Then all of a sudden you feel funny, doors open, and that person is inadvertently feeding off of your energy. Okay. Let's see, is there any other part of that I'm missing? Okay. Oh, long calls. Yeah, long calls from people who just won't let you get off the phone. That's a feeding. I've had clients where someone called them and literally be abusive to them on the phone for like a long time. And the person, I believe, would be corkscrewed. I'm trying to reflect back, but the person was literally corkscrewed by that person beforehand so that he won't get off or she won't get off of an abusive call from someone who claims to be a friend or something, but they're just, really raking them over the coals. And then I said, well, okay, this person's feeding off of you. And then they wouldn't believe that this person was feeding off of them, or they were, doing witchcraft or something else, because that person told them that they're not a witch. I said, well, I know this realm better than anybody I know. And I know this person is using some kind of, voodoo or whatever, witchcraft. And I said, okay, so when that person finishes raking you over the coals, they just kind of like hang up on you, don't they? And I've had this with more than a few, and they said, yeah, they do. I said, that's a feeding. They got full, they were satisfied, now they're on other things. You're out of mind, but you're still thinking about them, and residually, you're still feeding them just because you're thinking about how abusive they were towards you. So that's one having to do with long calls. There are individuals who corkscrew through long audio messages. That's why I don't accept audio messages from anyone except my daughter or some other family member that I know isn't up to any weirdness. We don't accept personal photographs because that has stuff also in it. And even to the point where the nation's people, like over 200 years ago or whatever, they were didn't like a certain number. You do have all these photos of nation's people, which they call Indians or or indigenous Americans or whatever, but nation people, what I call them, who have pictures. They have pictures of them, but there are a whole lot of them who wouldn't allow them to take pictures because they felt that that person was capturing a part of their soul. And that's because there were actually still some shamans who actually, was worth their salt during the time and knew what was going on the other side. So they wouldn't allow their photos to be taken. Like in this environment, people take photos all the time. And you can have photos taken, but you got to contain yourself. because you don't know who's using your photo for what. I've known of young women who had used pop idols' photos on altars, who, for some weird reason, think that they're going to get this guy to marry them or something. I've known certain individuals, excuse me, who would use these types of altars to try to steal someone's talent. So when I introduce containment, it is the most necessary tool for you to survive in this realm without, in other words, to protect yourself. Now, protect you from what's going on outside. If you're doing it right, and I do with my clients, I do test their containment and how long they last. And those who've been doing them right, they swear by it. Those who are half but doing it, well, I mean, I kind of, and I don't know, what do you expect? So anyway.
If there's not any questions, there's other types of feeding if you're interested.
Yeah, other types of feeding.
Eye contact, touching.
Oh, right. When I've dealt with possession, and I've done at least 5 of these things, and I never look forward to them. And that's another reason, again, going back to no in-studio sessions without basically being vetted, because I am touching an individual. And my energy, again, I don't get possessed. I just don't, because my energy is too strong. But individuals in that room with me risk getting possessed. Ms. A, she knows enough, and she's trained enough to know how to avoid that. So in the midst of a possession, I will inevitably have the person turn almost like an owl's head and look at me and just start, staring into my eyes. And sometimes they say things, or sometimes they just look. And one of the things I noticed that their eyes are dilated. Their pupils are dilated. I see like these black dots looking at me, and I swear they can be of any genetic background, any gender, but it always looks like the same face looking at me. Yeah, even animals. I've had some of that's in the story of my book, maybe that one. But where there's animals that get possessed, and you'll see the same thing happen, or you will see one eye get cloudy. And the dog or the cat is acting really weird, is acting really strange. That's a possession also. That's a walk-in for animals. So as far as people looking into your eyes, there are individuals who try to zoom in, and if you ever notice certain salespeople, they try to convince you to buy something that you're not really into. They usually try to give you a lot of eye contact, because they're trying to influence you. They're trying to corkscrew you into doing something that you wouldn't normally do. So that's another way that, in other words, through, how people can attack you through just looking at you.
You gave the story of your father trying to move around. That was such a good story.
Okay. I don't know if any family members are going to be listening to this, but anyway, that's okay. My what we call family, we call them father units and mother units and sister units and things like that. So my father unit, who has transitioned years ago, used to feed off of me because he was a very, very dense individual. And his feeding would be me fearing him calling me, because he would always get me in a very uncomfortable zone and try to pull me back to some of my most embarrassing moments as a 5-year-old. And here I am going on 40. And he would do that kind of nonsense. So once he was over, after my daughter was born, and he's visiting, and we're talking, and I noticed that he's situated himself right in my, field of vision, right in front of me. And I said, this feels really weird. I think, and it's kind of familiar, but I was just, I was getting more wherewithal about how things go and how density works. So I said, I'm going to turn my head in this direction. And he literally moved his chair right in front of me again. I said, that's interesting. I looked the other way. He moves his chair right in front of me. He was feeding. And he also was trying to corkscrew me and influence me into allowing him to live with me, which would have been a major disaster. So I became aware of what was going on. I decided, okay, I'm going to look at the floor. Let's see what he's going to do with that. So to save looking ridiculous or laying on the floor looking up at me, he stopped. So that's another way, another example of people corkscrewing you and trying to control you through staring at you. Some they stare and then they speak at you like, like maybe 6 inches away from your face. Parents like to do that kind of nonsense. A lot of dense parents out there. A lot of dense people do.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Are people aware that they are exhibiting this dense behavior? Like, are they doing it purposefully? And do they
In a
know that they're
sense,
doing it?
yeah, in a sense, yes and no. Okay? Yes and no. What they know is that, they feel better after doing it. They don't know that they're feeding something by doing it, though. But they know they feel better after doing it. And in a sense, they don't really care if you feel exhausted after they've done that. That's another sign of being tapped into. The person goes away and you're like, and you're exhausted. Or you're sleepy. All of a sudden, I just want to sleep. Okay?
Okay. Is that okay, Paloma?
Can I ask a second part to that question?
Feel free.
Because I have, I don't know, I guess I have a hard time, particularly with family members that I know want to be loving towards, like, their intention is to be loving, but I know that some of them exhibit dense behavior towards me, and I want to have empathy for what it is that that they're trying to do, but maybe can't work it out, and it's not my place to sort of help them work it out for them.
Well,
So I feel like I feel feelings of guilt for wanting to separate myself from them.
okay. Well, there's another lesson of how density works. So these individuals, they probably do sincerely feel or believe that they're really caring about you, but they're unaware that they're feeding something through this concept or idea of caring about you. And sometimes, let me know if I'm wrong, they're trying to suggest things for you to do with your life, but it's because I care about you. Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
Yeah, this is feeding. They really sincerely, it's like individuals who feel, I've dealt with a number of egomaniacs who feel that they can, everyone should listen to what they have to say and should do what they tell them to do when they don't know anything. So they feel in their minds that this is also programming. This is expressing caring. If I interject myself into Halona's personal life, with my own suggestions, if Halona is not really trying to figure out or trying to, you're trying not, in other words, you're trying to, have some empathy and understand them. But they don't, they're running a program and they feel, in a sense, that their program basically overrides your desires. It's not respectful. If they were really thinking logically, why should I interject into your expression or your experience? And two, how many of them have their lives all together, Have you looked at their lives? And you probably have. You may, just because I want to be compassionate, I don't look too deeply in the fact that, so-and-so may have a drinking problem, or so-and-so's in a relationship that's really, really detrimental to them, or so-and-so is eating, badly, or they're just doing all kinds of things that aren't really balanced, but you're more vibrating lighter, so you're not going to introduce your concepts of what they're doing or your ideas of what they're doing and try to correct what they're doing. So do you find yourself just kind of like stepping back and observing them in a sense and saying, well, wow, your life is kind of in shambles. Why are you trying to tell me about my life? Does that ever come to mind?
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
you
I
laugh.
realize that their life, their lives are not together as they would like it to be.
Yeah.
But sometimes I also feel sort of angry because of what, um, just the foolishness that I feel like I've been thrown in circles for most of my life. This,
Yeah.
the same circles of density of over and over and over again. And now that I see I'm coming out on the other side of it, slowly but surely. I just, I'm just sort of angry about, what
Well,
some people have done. But I know they didn't do it knowingly.
yeah, it didn't really do it because you're dealing, in other words, when you're dealing with what I'm teaching, you're dealing with an understanding of probably where you were at some point, and then when you're starting to see the light and you're starting to take care of your own life. And by the way, we really love your post about being in Rwanda and everything. So that's really great. Uh, wow, see, when I did that, I threw myself off track. Sorry. Can you refresh me?
It has to do with, not allowing some, feeling guilty about having, expressing and having a great.
Yeah. Okay, I'm back. So when it comes to, feeling angry, angry is just another way of just feeding as well. And, something, well, they did this thing, isn't it natural for me to feel angry? Yeah, the program is natural to feel angry, but the program is about feeding again. So we waste a lot of energy being angry at someone. And I had a lot of anger towards, certain, both parents for, at a certain point in time. There were times that they were doing things that were really cool, and then there were times that just weren't, And I realized when I was angry that I felt like I was still feeding something, And so when I let go of it, and with the understanding, like you said, that they're not doing this, may not be doing this, on purpose. And you do know that there are people who have like the snake eye thing, and that they're up to something, and they don't want, they're, into seeing you do poorly or whatever, or trying to lock you down and keep you from expressing your life as best as you can. So when it comes to them, it's more of like just understanding where they are. A lot of individuals have a lot of density, and a lot of individuals who come to me, there's something that is on the other side. I've had people who've had, what they would call spirit guides, but I don't use that term because that's kind of too new agey. But individuals on the other side at times that kind of push them in my direction, and sometimes through some negative people, and end up, like in my studio. So those individuals who are still stuck in it, there's no one strong enough to push them in the right direction, to try to at least figure out what's going on. Because if they were able to figure out what they were doing, then they would actually have much better lives themselves. There's a saying like, learn to row your own boat. So, how can you row your own boat when you got trying to hold on to Holona's or trying to row her boat for, and you're trying to row yours? What happens? Just end up going in circles, you know? So I wouldn't worry about, I would actually just, when it comes to the anger, I would just literally, a lot of the times, let's see what you can put it into. But again, put it into something, some kind of activity or whatever. But actually, what I do, I contain it. So anger as a consciousness, as an attachment, as an NC, I contain it, and then into the vortex and overturn as many times as I have to. So that you can get away from the anger and just live your life and do what you want to do. And as far as like the compassion, that's another trap as well. I talk about being an observer. It's better to just be an observer of others, and even those who are supposed to be family. Just be an observer as to how they're moving, and be an observer as to how you're moving. And when you look at it in an objective way, you're not connecting yourself personally to them. And part of the game is, if they're my family, I have to feel something, and I have to whatever. even if those individuals are doing things that are really just wearing you down. Because in the end,
Yeah, the
it's usually on
compassion
your,
is a trap is a good one.
what is it again? There's some
I said
sound in the
that
back.
looking at compassion as a trap is a big one for me.
Yeah, yeah. And, someone said, well, is that awful? Isn't compassion good? Not if it's a trap. And 9 times out of 10, compassion has been used as a trap. This is their realm. This has been their realm. Everything that you look at, you smell, you taste, is part of their realm that they took over, they stole it, and they created this nonsense here. So it's so that you won't feel like I'm heartless. I am an observer. I don't have, a negative feeling towards you or a positive feeling towards you. I am looking at how you are reacting and behaving. And if I have to throw up my shield at some point because all of a sudden you're turning around and you're pointing your gun in my direction, I'll just throw up my shield. Sometimes if it feels like it's worth your while, you can maybe try to talk to them, but you will know generally they'll resist, or some will just start to lean in a little, closer and want to know more. And that's when you know that you have someone who has a chance of possibly, getting on the right track. But the compassion bit, all of that, that's another what I call a loaded word, compassion. Just like love is a loaded word, caring is a loaded word. Is the whole.
List. Would you like me to read it?
Yeah, Ms. A has a list of loaded words in this realm.
And it's interesting that you said the word trap.
Mm-hmm.
Loaded words are traps. So guilt.
Guilt is another one.
Love, care, family, friends, forgiveness, humble, mean, freedom, protection, punishment, and arrogant.
Yeah. So we're getting arrogant.
Whenever you talk about protecting yourself and living the life that you want to freely.
Oh, when someone calls you arrogant. Yeah, that one with the arrogance is someone saying you're arrogant if you don't listen to them. And you live your life, mind you, not telling them to live their life a certain way, but live your life your way. And they think you should be living your life, the way that they think, when again, you know that they don't have their act together. No one has their act 100% together. And if they're not doing this work, they really don't have their, at least you're on your way to getting your life more and more and more and more and more together. But if they're back there and they're, well, you're arrogant, you're not listening because you're arrogant. I said, well, aren't you arrogant by trying to insist that I live the way that you think I should live? Your life's such a prize. I'm traveling, I'm enjoying myself. For me, I'm not asking you to pay for my trips. So.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Okay, yeah, your volume's down pretty low,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can kind of hear you.
Do you mind reading the loaded words again a little slower? I couldn't write that fast. I got 6 of them.
Be available for you
Yeah.
at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, this is being recorded, so if
okay.
you want, you can
No
just listen
problem.
to the recording. And
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so.
The next one has to do with feeding through touch, and sometimes people will say, you're mean if you don't let me hug you.
Oh, right,
or hold your hand.
Yep, there's another feeding through touch, which would make, which is obvious, but not for most people, because the whole concept of hugging, there are cultures that knew in ancient times that there was something about hugging, so you run into cultures that don't do a lot of hugging. That has to do with their ancient awareness, even though they may not be aware of why they don't touch, now, because of all the density and all the confusion that's been handed down in this world. But touching is a way that people will contaminate your energy, because everyone oozes. So if someone's touching you, they're getting it and they're really nasty and slimy. You've all probably seen someone who just oozes nastiness. And you don't even have to talk to them. They just look nasty. And they come up and they start trying to touch you and you just, and you back up from them. But the reality of the matter is that everyone oozes energy. So if your energy is lighter, you're not going to affect someone negatively. There's a story that I had, a politician years ago in New York City who was a friend of a friend of mine. It was a friend of a friend of mine who was an artist, and he had a show in Midtown Manhattan. He asked me to come and to the show, and I said, I know you're friends with this particular political figure, and I don't like the guy, and I don't want to be anywhere near the guy. He says, oh, he's going to show up late. He's going to show up late. Just show up early. So, okay, fine. I'll show up early. And that's where, friends, So I show up early, go into the area where he's got his show, his paintings up. And lo and behold, there he is talking to this politician. And I'm like, oh, gosh, man, I'm halfway in the room. It was really weird if I were to just turn on my heels and just leave. So I'm going, okay, I'm going to have to suck it up. So I go up and, say, hey, how you doing? Oh, okay, yeah, this is my good friend, and this is, politician so-and-so, my friend so-and-so, who is. I say, yeah, I know he is, And we're looking at each other, eyeing each other. We have a mutual dislike for one another immediately. So the guy puts his hand out, and I said, okay, I put my hand out. I shake this guy's hand. And I said, okay, Tom, I'm going to go look at some other things, some of the other shows and other, exhibits, and I'll be back. So I managed to make my way out of the room. As I'm walking out of the room, I'm kind of shaking my hand, not really noticing it at first. And then I start to feel some weird tingling in my hand, and it starts to grow, just crawl up my arm and then into my shoulder. Next thing I know, I had to go sit down because my whole body started shaking. And so I had to just clear myself, sitting in this area. While I'm clearing myself, another one of my friends come. It was an attractive woman, came and sat next to me, and she said, "How you doing?" I said, this guy, man, he's really, really negative. He's really nasty. The guy got a really nasty energy." And she says, that bastard hit on me in front of my husband. But the story is that people can contaminate you with their intent. He didn't like me, and he had so much ooze, and he was so connected to density that it literally affected my whole body. It took me a couple minutes, though. I was able to get myself, upright again. But that was a lesson for me. So individuals who like to hug all the time, I'm not into all that hugging stuff. So if it's someone, I'll hug someone like my daughter, I'll hug someone like my wife, because I know their energy, I cleared them, I worked on them. So I know that there's not going to be anything that's going to knock me off. But actually, to tell you the truth, nobody's energy can knock me off my center anyway, because I have to grapple with people who are possessed. And I still don't get, I'm a gazillion times stronger than I was back in that time. That was well over 25 years ago.
That is a great segue for the loaded word of humble, because people expected you to be humble, and then that didn't really work. They didn't respect that.
Oh yeah, the whole concept of humble is another loaded one, where if I didn't tell people the things I'm telling you now about them, how strong my energy is, and I just feel humble, oh yeah, I can do this stuff, and this is what I do. And I've even had a client literally say, you do all this amazing stuff, but you just act like, it's just, it's okay, it's whatever. And you know what happened? Even that particular person decided that they could take advantage of me. Or they could tell me when I decided to make changes with how I did things that they didn't like it. So that humble thing opens you up to being victimized also by denser individuals, denser people, and density in general. So it's not like you have to just, beat your chest and sing it out loud that I am great and all this stuff. But if you know that you have something that's really, really special, really, really more than what others have, you gotta really be willing to put it out there. Because the humble thing, literally, you'll end up being frustrated because no one, I shouldn't say no one, but the majority of people who are so contaminated will literally just look at it as you're a sucker. And you know who they will listen to? Someone who's beating his chest and strutting around like a peacock and just basically telling them a truckload of lies about who they are and this and that. And if they huff and puff, strong enough, a lot of people believe them. And some of you know people like that. You know who I'm talking about too. They have no juice, they have nothing, it's all hype and huff and puff. So I'm being nice in my, my professional demeanor, my great bedside manner, and, later for the humble, because I realized that it caused me more trouble than anything else. I don't go around, arrogantly putting people down like that particular individual will do. If you're struggling with the exercises, it's not because you're weak. Maybe it's because your focus is off, and maybe because you're not doing it enough. But certain individuals tell you, oh, you're weak and you're lonely, because they're huffing and puffing because they want food from the people that they're convincing that they're this great, whatever they think they are, or whatever they want to think they are. So, okay.
With that segue, would you like to go to Minhead or
We go to ayahuasca.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question that was submitted is, what is your opinion on certain drugs or chemicals like LSD, cannabis, DMT, mushrooms, ayahuasca, peyote, etc.? Do they play any role in enlightenment?
They don't. Literally. The mind is what plays a role in enlightenment. So when you take certain things like that and you don't know anything about the other realms, I've had just recent clients who went back to the States from Mexico. And she had and she was suffering from a major depression. And she was honest enough to tell me that she had done an ayahuasca ceremony and a DMT ceremony, which is kind of redundant because ayahuasca is full of DMT. And she was suffering major depression. And Ms. A decided to check it out on the internet as to what are the effects that most people say that they experience from ayahuasca. And it was depression, major depression. With all that said now, ayahuasca was introduced to me, maybe 25 years ago, something like that. And that's before, it was right at the beginning where it was just starting to become a fad. And the individual who introduced it to me, they gave me some and I never took it because I never vibed that there was a time for me to take it. So I didn't miss anything by not taking it. I don't even know what happened to the stuff because I moved, And she told me about her experience, and she had she was staying in my house, she's house sitting for the weekend, and she prepared her situation. And she's someone who actually has some insight also, to the other side. So she wasn't like a babe in the woods. So she had an experience where she heard the door to the room open, and she knew that she had blocked the door and with towels and something like that. So there's no dragging sound. So she knew, okay, something else is going on. And then she saw a person who looked like a shaman from the rainforest enter the room. And what she wanted with her ayahuasca, she wanted a healing. So she had suffered these automobile accidents, and we can get into things having to do with accidents sometime, in the future. And there was an issue around the ear and the TMJ, and a lot of ear aching. And this individual came in, and he did something around the ear, and then he left. And after she came out of it, her ear, she had no problems with the ear.
He said for your pain.
Yeah, he said for your pain, absolutely. Yeah, he did say something. Yeah, he said for your pain to her. And she got up, and she said that, she felt she got what she wanted because she knew what she wanted. It wasn't like I'm laying there, enlighten me or show me, she had something in mind that she wanted. So she was literally, the ayahuasca, we worked on that, we did a muscle test on that. And even just out of fun, we can muscle test on where the current ayahuasca is coming from. And that's the problem with ayahuasca journeys. The majority of it is not coming from the rainforest. It's actually being cultivated, which means it doesn't have the same properties as the original. So that's where the depression is coming from. And when someone trusts in some person who says he's a shaman, and he'll, lead you through an ayahuasca ceremony, you can't really believe it because the number of true shamans are like almost nil on this planet, or literally nil. So we conduct a muscle test and have some fun here. You know how it works. So that my muscle testing is very, very accurate. So we're going to make sure, I'm going to screen, go down screen. Which means we got some looky-loos, and that's what Ms. A is tapping into. As you know, she's an empath. And someone has someone around them that doesn't want information to come out. That's okay. Okay. So the question is most of the ayahuasca these days being cultivated? And they got a yes. And when I do this, I tap into the other realms, which means I tap into all over the place. So if we got something in here screaming about ayahuasca because they don't want their scam exposed, I'm exposing the scam. Ms. A can tell you if she's really suffering or not, so don't feel like I'm a cruel guy here. Okay, Ms. A?
Yes. This is people don't understand that a lot of financial scams are scams promoted by density in the first place.
Yeah, so that information's coming that they look at ayahuasca as a boon because people are easily programmed, They tell them, this will help you, and they'll run in that direction without asking the question. Especially if the right person says it, the right representative of density who you probably watch on TV or in movies or whatever, tells you, this is what you should do, because you're programmed to look up to, whoever it is in media. So I'm going to follow. So the ayahuasca deal is like, okay, this is 25 years later. It's become a cash cow for a lot of fakes out there. So it's about money. It's not about your enlightenment. So this person, they figure they're going to get enlightenment elsewhere because there's some other things having to do with people wanting to be my equal in healing. And I said, you can't be my equal because I don't do what you're doing. I'm doing something that's my own. So they get pissed off. And they say, okay, well, I'm going to go elsewhere and I'm getting what you do somewhere else. Person went off like a year ago, came back this year. Also, the person didn't want to deal with me shifting my name, or what my clients call me, Chief. Wanted to keep calling me the old name also, as part of just a disrespect I felt, So they came back, all jacked up, two of them. One was honest, one wasn't. The one that wasn't was the one that got all twisted. And when I looked into her energy, she was dying. Which means that whatever she was doing out there, you go out in this ayahuasca stuff, you think that you can just go and do an ayahuasca trip or a DMT trip, and it's going to be the same. You don't know that realm. It's freaking dense out there. And they're just waiting for all the little lambs to come in who are just like, believe whatever is being told to them by certain individuals, and then they feed on you like there's no tomorrow. To the point where you can literally die from the amount of feeding they're doing these days. So, are there Is there still ayahuasca out in the rainforest? Yeah, well, yeah, a bit, but a lot less, a lot less. So in the beginning of maybe, I don't know, maybe 20, 15 years ago, they literally were just stripping it all out there. And even then, it didn't mean that you were meeting someone who was a capable shaman, even though that shaman may be limited, he was probably a capable shaman. The shaman that came through for my, for the woman that I was telling you the story about was a spirit, which means he was the real deal. Very few real deal walking around in their skin. Very few real deals walking around in the skin. That means yes. So, and usually when Ms. A is reacting this way, she's empathing them. This is them, crouching and acting distressed. That's them. She's tapping into them. You're saying yes.
The density that's in charge of fake shamans.
So we have a system out there. Density in charge of fake shamans. Fake shamans work for masters. Density on the other side. It's all about energy. They don't care about money. They give money to those who are walking around in this realm. They're interested in your energy. So the dense shaman opens you up like a can of sardines, and their masters feed on you. They give them some money from those who are unaware. They keep bringing certain people to those individuals, because the density inside of those individuals will say, hey, it's a good idea to just, go and get do an ayahuasca trip with somebody I don't even know and haven't even checked out. It's like letting your next door neighbor do surgery, heart surgery on you. They think this stuff is harmless, but it isn't. Anything having to do with the other realm is serious business. It'll ruin your health, and it'll also ruin your mind. Yeah, so individuals who use LSD just as recreational, because literally density wants them to just open themselves up and just feed on them. I have a client who, excuse me, let me pull this one out, who would literally in a panic call, which is a no-no, text, I don't care what your problem is, you text. He was calling and sending videos. That's another thing, we don't take videos. And talking about these entities or ghosts who were in his room, talking at him in his room. And found out that he had done LSD, he'd done a number of psychotropic drugs, which what they do, they open up a door like that. If you don't have a guide, those doors open, anything walks in. And a lot of times, the more you do it, the more the door is broken to the point where it won't even close properly. So this individual, I had my first session with him end of last year or something like that, because he was out somewhere taking psychotropics, and all of a sudden these entities showed up in the club he was in and surrounded him and started talking at him. Freaked him out. He leaves the club and they followed him all the way home. So he's at home and they're still talking at him and making fun of him and threatening him. So he leaves home, goes to a hotel where he walks in a hotel, and lo and behold, there's more of them in the hotel. And the ones who were harassing him looked around, and then said, okay, someone's coming, bye, and left. He walked into the hotel, then there was the big guy, which is all hype anyway, as far as I'm concerned. And that one started harassing him and started, all these illusions and things like that with this guy. And I had to just literally close the doors from this guy and literally get rid of these things that were on him. So that's just one story of many that I know about individuals who use these types of drugs.
There was even a woman that cut his stomach
Yeah, there was an entity that came through. Well, it was like a ghost or something or whatever. Well, she shapeshifted, didn't she?
Yes.
So, who literally, well, she enticed him with sex first. And she was doing this stuff to me, and I was really going for it. And then next thing you know, he's seeing his stomach being cut open. And then I believe one of them said, we got you.
And then he felt pain.
Yeah, then he felt the pain from whatever it was. He didn't really have his stomach cut open, but the mind screw you that way.
Then he started calling in a panic over and over.
Yeah, that's when he started panic calling. So anyway, again, using those types of drugs, it's using it recreational will damage you. I've run into people, I was around during the 60s and all that. And there are individuals who took LSD strips, and we actually met one not that long ago. Remember, at somebody's going away thing.
Yes.
And the guy's sitting there, and he's just he's not all there, and I can tell he's not all there. And he wanted to just talk like, so yeah, man, when I did an LSD trip, it was mind expanding and opening and so on and so forth, and I'm okay. And I'm like, you're really not okay, man. You're just really, really not okay. And if anyone met him who isn't jacked up like him would know that this guy's got, half his brain is gone or something. So anyway. Yeah, any questions? Anyone want me to elaborate on anything? Or anything that you've used that you're concerned about? Okay.
I don't see any hands.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I've just
Someone said something.
cannabis.
Cannabis.
Natural cannabis is fine. The problem with cannabis is that it's being doctored all over the place. There's all these different strains that are being created. So one of the things with cannabis, if you're using cannabis, I think I showed how to do muscle testing for food. You can also do that for something like cannabis. Now, as far as like psychotropics, I just say stay away from them unless you can get into a situation where, I lead people through those types of things, but I don't think they're necessary. I don't think LSD is necessary. Cannabis definitely has benefits that are a lot more beneficial to you than something like all these other psychotropic drugs. Even with mushrooms depends on the mushroom. As to what kind of experience you have. But if someone's cultivating it, the cannabis, you just have to be aware, and I would say muscle testing, because there's cannabis that's just totally fine, but then there's times that you'll have something that'll open you up, and when certain individuals would experience paranoia, that means that the cannabis is opening you up to something very, very dense. So again, if anything, I don't have an issue with mushrooms or cannabis, except it can be contaminated as well. And being high all the time is not good at all.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Okay. The next question, because we were talking about enlightenment, I can read the next question if you like.
Okay, you can read the next.
How do you know you're being enlightened when you've never experienced enlightenment before?
Yeah, that's, and someone would ask me, how do you know when you're being enlightened? And then I added that part, when you've never been enlightened before, you really don't know. But when I'm working on a person, because it really, when it comes to enlightenment in this realm, in the new agey type of deal, they'll either make it a physical thing, like breath exercises and so on and so forth, or a mantra type of deal. When in reality, enlightenment involves your whole consciousness. So mind, body, mind and body. So with me, you're reaching clarity because you're feeling lighter. Your load is lighter when I finish the session. So that means your energy levels are starting to flow, which means once I start to work on the mind, that's why some say, well, just give me an energy clearing, man. I don't want all that other stuff. I said, well, then you're just getting, a fraction of the deal. You're getting half the deal. And these same individuals want to be enlightened, and they'll grasp onto new age nonsense and all of that kind of BS. And then think that, just by having someone clear your energy supposedly in your body that is supposed to lead you to enlightenment. If you can't shift your mind, you'll never get to anything that resembles enlightenment. So if you're buying into New Age, that's not enlightenment. That's something designed to keep you running in a circle until they tap you out, you know, then you die, and then they boom, kick you into the trash. So this has been going on for a long, long, long time. And the great thing about me being around the amount of time that I've been in this particular expression is that I've been paying attention the whole time. So a lot of folks will come in and they're in their 30s and, you know, 40s and even younger, and they don't know that the stuff that they think is new stuff is old garbage, just repackaged. So true enlightenment has to do with how you think, how you understand things. You can't hold on to old shit and become enlightenment, and reach levels of enlightenment. Reach levels of enlightenment, okay. So again, you can, but don't ever feel like in this realm that you're going to be Neo or, you know, master of the universe or some kind of, you know, nonsense like that. And if you have desires for that, you got problems. Okay.
If anyone has any questions, I can.
Yeah, anyone have any questions about enlightenment that, you know, that you want clarified, or just your own personal, you know, opinion about it that you want me to correct? Okay, we're gonna move on.
Okay.
So I can ask either, is it possible to clear myself, or we go into New Age questions?
Well, we can get to, is it possible to clear yourself, and then we can go into the New Age thing.
Is it possible to clear myself on my own?
No. I can teach you how to do containment and then micro-containment, which means things that come to the surface on you as far as attachments, you can learn how to get rid of those things. Okay? But as far as like clearing yourself, deep clearing, the mind is involved in it, right? You know, it's your mind, the mind is involved. So if you're coming at it from a very insufficient mental place, you'll never clear yourself. So that's why I clear deep stuff. I teach you how to clear things that, you know, in other words, you have these certain aches or something, which means that there's an attachment either coming out due to the work that you're doing what I'm telling you to do, and people will get aches in certain places. Or they'll get weird cramps in places that, you know, where they never got cramps before. That means you're doing the work properly and you're starting to purge. So micro-contain these areas and pull vortex and no return, always vortex no return. Don't change the name because it won't work if you change the name. So you micro-contain all these areas where there's like pain, even if you have reoccurring pain in a certain area, you just keep doing it. And you keep doing it, and that you can clear. But when it comes to the real clearing of your energy so that you can reach, I guess, you know, higher vibrations, that you have to have sessions to do that. And I don't know any energy person or any Reiki worker, and I met a lot of them, who knows how to do it the way that I do it. They'll do it, they move stuff around, they don't get rid of it permanently. But I do, I get rid of it permanently. And they don't know how to get rid of things permanently. Okay.
Who clears you?
Who clears me? No one. I clear myself. No one has the energy. No one's strong enough to clear me. Bottom line. End of subject. If anyone ever asks me if I need a clearing, you better check yourself. Okay?
Okay. Should we start New Age?
We can go to New Age.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any questions, or I'm gonna go on to some New Age questions that were submitted?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's move
The
forward.
next question: can we manifest anything we want in life by focusing on it during meditation? Go ahead.
No. Meditation to me is a waste of time, but if you enjoy doing it, go for it. But the whole concept of it is just opening yourself up to what's out there. And if you don't know what's out there, you don't know what's coming in and interfering with your energy or with your life. Sometimes things will come in and then they'll do you a nice little favor with something, you know, and then they just hook you. And then from that point on, it's basically a swindle. From that point on, you're looking to meditation to get to these higher levels, but you never get there. You know, I think I've told this story before about someone who was an in-law who was into meditation, and I even tried meditation, you know, myself years and years ago. And everything that I talk about, I've tried. And you think, well, that's just for you. I said, no, that's not for me, because I also observe other people and see how far they're coming along with these exercises, these practices. And meditation isn't really necessarily New Age, but New Age kind of adopted it, you know, and you know, and put it in part of their little package of scam. So this particular person was doing all this meditation, and I tell you, he's one of the biggest idiots I've ever met in my life. But he was into meditating and so on and so forth. And then one day he tells me, I was meditating and I came out of my body and I was looking down on myself and wow, oh, you know. I said, okay, so, all right, what now? Well, you know, I think I'm reaching higher levels. I said, no, you're still the same idiot that you were before. I can feel it. The way you talk, he hasn't, you know, there's no enlightenment. But if you want to practice, do what you want to do. It's more important to do containment. Because when you meditate, you're opening yourself up to whatever comes in. And generally it's density that's coming in. When you do containment, you're blocking that stuff out, allowing the energy from your body, and people like to use the words kundalini and all this other kind of stuff, but allows your energy highway to remain open after sessions and promotes clarity of mind, because mind is key to everything. So when you have more clarity of mind, your mind starts to expand as to what you think about on your own, and you know, to the point you don't really need me to pinpoint things. But there are individuals, their minds start to expand, then they come and they have questions for me, you know, for what's going on, and I always have an answer. And it's not pulling it out of my secret compartment either. I have answers for what, you know, for what is going on with you, because this is my realm. Okay?
The next question is, can you open your third eye because of meditating? And what are your thoughts on the third eye? Is it key to anything?
Well, I've mentioned, you know, opening up third eye, having to do with creativity and so on and so forth. And it does exist, but it's not as important as your full consciousness. It's better to open up, in other words, the as I said, the energy points, or not energy points, but, you know, in other words, the energy highway. Because we'll talk about chakras and all that as well. Chakras are primarily doorways, but that's for another question. But, excuse me. Question reiterate.
Okay. It says about the third eye.
All right, third eye. Okay, great. It exists, but it's not key to your enlightenment. Again, if it's open and your mind is still stuck in, I don't know, in level 1 academia or institutional thinking, or trying to bring Jesus into it or something like that, it's like a waste of time to open it.
And sometimes we see fake things. We see illusions.
Well, a lot of times, yeah, there's a lot of illusions that are presented to people also on the other side as well. The thing is the longevity of whatever it is that you may think is positive in your life. Does it have longevity? And that's how you can tell. And this is us, you know, coupling the third eye and all of this stuff with some of the other aspects of having to do with, you know, how do you know you're becoming enlightened or whatever. If there's longevity to the process. Now, if you get to a certain level and then you're trying and you're clawing to try to get to the next level, it means that somebody's, you know, giving you just a little more to keep you still stuck in the trap. For me, it's about continually moving forward, moving up, moving out, and expanding outward. And generally, it has to do with, well, they play into people's linear thinking or tunnel vision. So they'll do one thing. If you're looking through a tube, tunnel vision, you're only going to see that one thing. For me, I'm a radial thinker, which means when I think about things, it just goes all over the place. And sometimes my wife will ask, where are you at? Because he's talking about something. I said, I still hear you, but there are things coming from all these different areas, having to do with the topic you're talking about. So I'm not just looking for this one little thing, and it's like looking through, just like I said, almost like a keyhole, trying to find the answer to something. When you open your mind up and understand radial thinking, which is very, very difficult for people, because I've been telling them this for a good while now, and they still think, I'm not sure what this radial thinking is, because it's been programmed into linear and tunnel vision and, and so on.
People have a huge ego issue. They see things that aren't there and take them.
You can actually say that louder so everyone can hear.
When people have, so when Chief says that the third eye is not so important because it can be hijacked, your sight can be hijacked. There's people who have some serious ego issues, so density will give them these illusions of grandeur that take them way off the track of any sort of enlightenment or any type of changing their mind, because their real issue they're not facing it.
Yeah, literally. And there's a lot of examples of it. Again, the people with the biggest egos have the weakest ego, which means they can be manipulated just by someone saying, I think you're great. Then all of a sudden they just take it and they just explode it out to, I am, supreme consciousness, or even just in the sense of, and let's say everyone, but a lot of people make a similar mistake having to do with saving Gaia. Like I've been called upon to save Gaia. Listen, I might have talked about it in the last forum, but it's along that line where they're tapping into a person's desire to be special. And sometimes it has to do with trauma when they were, younger or a kid, being made to feel less. And then they're angry about being, made to feel less. Well, I'm going to show them, I'm going to do something that's going to prove to people that I'm not less. And, their little ego starts to evolve. And then something will come in from the other side and tell them. And I've run into this with individuals that have personal relationships with, where something will come in and tell them that they're greater than me. And I don't go about talking about I'm great or anything like that, and try to tell me what's up when I'm the one who introduced them to this realm. And they think they know everything they need to know when they don't know jack shit about it.
And they were getting illusions of that they were like being coronated and that the councils come for them.
Oh yeah, this council nonsense, the galactic council and all this stuff. So there's a lot of density will come in and tell them, you're great, you're this, you're that. How I weigh things is how everything in this world shifts. Things are shifting in this world, but they're covering up with all these little lies and things, what is it? Something with this fake ass corona nonsense. And then they're shutting England down again until December 1st. Because the virus is doing, what did they say? It's mutating and all this other kind of stuff, and a lot of BS. So it's just literally all that stuff is basically trying to keep everyone in the chicken coop. So they'll give you some excuse for why they're doing all this panic stuff that they've been doing for going on a year now, which is historic. Other than maybe a country being shut down by war for a year or so. But the whole planet? Think about that. And I'm not going to give you any answers, but think about that. How logical is that? Maybe there's something going on that they don't want you to know. So.
Speaking of that, what do you think about bacteria and viruses?
Yeah, I have individuals who get corkscrewed, and they'll bring up these words like bacteria and viruses. My work has to do with energy. Everything is energy. We are all energetic beings. Everything, even what we use, is energy. So when they're talking about, bacteria and how I was able to overcome the concept of the common cold and flus and things like that, was understanding that it was an energetic consciousness that was basically attacking my energy. And once I understood what it was, grabbed hold of it, out. Last time I had anything resemble a cold was well over maybe 13 years ago. And I have not had anything that's considered a sickness since then. So bacteria does not exist. It's just another deception or distraction. So when individuals come in, this is bacteria, and say, it's energy, man, and it's consciousness. So you're being programmed to believe these words, bacteria, and to react to it opens you up. They love to feed. They feed all these different ways. You have no idea, just on the smallest levels, all the way up to the largest levels. Terror, all the way to the minor things of like, oh, I have a rash on my side. Oh, I have to go to the doctor. When your body is literally fighting density. And all you need to do is do your containments, your micro containments, pull, keep pulling, and not let your mind get the best of you. Because what happens, the mind, if you believe in some concept of this being something that is going to kill you, you might just die from it. But you have to override these trained behaviors of weakness. So all these institutions are training you to be weak and training you to stay away from the possibility of becoming enlightened. So if you're following these protocols that have been around for hundreds of years that haven't improved anything in anyone's life, tell me how logical that is. It's a saying of Einstein, I don't know for verbatim, but doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome is a sign of insanity. For me, doing that over and over again is a sign of programming. Okay?
When you say doing things over and over again, there was someone who said, do you have to breathe a certain way when you meditate, or is it even helpful?
Well, I already said meditation is really not that useful. There are a lot of different ways of relaxing. Meditation is just another fad that's been around for a long, long time. That doesn't necessarily work. I follow gurus, not like I follow them like I'm a follower, but I observe certain individuals over time, over decades, who are leading groups of people in meditation and all this other stuff, and so on and so forth. And then he dies, and all his followers are looking around like, what do we do now? And the only other person, someone who's close to him, decides he's going to be that person, but he didn't get the tap from the density that was supporting the guru. So the movement just goes like that. So there's a lot of individuals out here doing so-called healing gurus and so on and so forth, who are literally backed by density. And you can tell if short lifespans mean that you only have a certain amount of time to observe everything that's going on around you. But by the time you realize, wow, this is BS, you're dead. Okay.
If there's not any questions, the next one has to do with, you were talking about New Age and some of the practices that they actually implement and teach others to do through New Age can actually shorten someone's life due to contamination. One of the questions was, New Age says you can give your light to other people by putting the palm of your hand on someone and focusing on giving your light to them. What do you think about this, Chief?
Yeah, it's a lot of bunk also. If, let's say, there are individuals who ask for your energy, and there's some of us who know that one, and you can give someone energy. You definitely can. But again, you're going to read that because there's a part of that.
We talked about people giving energy, but the energy is contaminated.
Also, yeah, that's true. So again, if you have people who are giving you energy, how do you know their energy is not more contaminated than yours? Well, somebody doesn't like that. So that's another thing. For me, I've had in the past that I have folks in in religion, and they say, "I'll pray for you," and I said, "Don't you dare," because what they're doing, they're putting a focus on me that I don't want. So what I do, contained. Whatever prayers you're sending to me is bouncing off my force field. Because these individuals who are generally going to pray for you are so jacked up, they shouldn't be praying for anybody. So again, when putting, your hand on someone, even if you're wanting to put your hand on someone, I don't know, it can help someone, it depends, really, it really does depend. But again, if you have someone who's, like a group of people coming in and we're going to pray and we're going to, put their hands on you, they may be just contaminating you, or someone's just in there going, sucking the rest of your energy off of you while they're doing it. So you have to understand whether that person's really sincerely trying to give you energy, or are they trying to feed for their masters, their dense masters on the other side, or themselves. But I did know a woman who, years ago, who thought she was a healer, and she was a nurse, and she thought she was a healer because this one incident where there was this old guy in the hospital, and he was, it looked like he was near death. And he's laying there, and she's taking care of him, day after day, coming in, checking on him. And then one day she comes in there and he grabs her by her arm and just holds on to her really, really tight. And she's trying to pull away, but he's just hanging onto that arm. And then after a certain point, he goes, and releases her arm. And then he's up, okay, I'm ready to go home. And he was out of the hospital the next day. She thought she healed him. He was a vampire. He's just like, and then just sucked the energy out of her. And I said, well, how'd you feel after he did that? Oh, I felt really exhausted, but I healed him. I said, he healed himself, really, using your energy. So you can have that kind of thing happening. There's a lot of different ways with touch and this type, this type of deal. There's a lot of different ways for it to go wrong. So if you're someone who really knows what you're doing, for me, I don't have to really touch anyone to do the healing, but I do touch. But those of you who have had experiences with me working on you, I'm here, and a lot of you are in other countries, and it works. So I don't have to come up and put my hand on your heart chakra. I use Ms. A to empath you as a map of your energy. And I empath myself. Ms. A, her specialty is that she taps into the density and they vocalize through her. So even if she's not on the table, I can empath. And, before I trained Ms. A in, how to empath, I was just doing this stuff on my own anyway. And I was doing it, via Skype as well, before I started doing it in studio like this. So you don't have to put if your energy is strong enough, you don't have to touch anyone to give them a certain amount of energy.
Can I ask a?
Sure.
So if I understand correctly, it's good for us to learn how to become more independent in our own, to stand independently in our own energy, as opposed to having to depend on a community of other people.
Yeah.
I guess to be able to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, because in reality, you don't know who's in that community. You don't know how they're vibrating unless you're empathic enough to be able to pick up each individual's vibration. You don't know who's in that community. And the reality of the matter, when I open up your channels, you don't need anyone else to heal you. Because I'm opening up your access to supreme consciousness. And that's where all the energy comes from. Anyway, in this realm, it's just blocked because on purpose. So that you could have end up with a lower vibration, makes it easier for you to be consumed and easier for things to, manipulate you and all these, difficulties that people have in their lives. But you don't really need a community to do that. You don't need, these folks to focus on you and send you good energy. I never ask anyone to send me good energy because I got plenty of my own. But you can get to the point where you don't have to ask others to send you energy. Will you have the levels that I have? No, I doubt it. But you will definitely have enough to keep yourself moving forward. So it'll be the mind that will weaken it and say, I need, and that's why I say the key component to healing and enlightenment is how you think. If you think deficient, you think that I need anything. So need is another, dicey word that's, there's no necessity, period. Do I need to be here? No, I don't need to be here. Do I need to be in this, in this vehicle, in this avatar? I don't need to be in this avatar. I'm here because I desire to be in it, because I desire to see what I came here to do through. Individuals who feel like, I need to be alive. Why? What are you contributing to anything that you need to be alive? And there's plenty of people that don't need to be existing anywhere. Because they're a problem to everybody and everything. They don't need to be here, they just desire to feed. Or the things behind them convince them that they need to be here because those things are feeding through them. So with all that said, no, you don't need, these other communities. You can interact with people, but always protect yourself because this is a battlefield. And everyone gets contaminated. If they're not going through my process, they're contaminated. That's all I gotta say. And it's not an ego trip either. This has to do with experience. This has to do with me just dealing with a lot of different clients. And I came to a strong resolve in the last 3 years that this is a major battlefield. The weird thing that would happen when you're doing the work and you're feeling good and you're feeling powerful, then all of a sudden you get a call from someone who wants to rain on your parade, who wants to bring you down, who wants to start complaining about things. That's because they're connected to that density on the other side. The matrix has a lot of good things in it about the matrix being like this grid of density, that density control. So what you're doing, you're waging battle in the midst of density. And with my tools, they're not used to those tools. They're just used to being able to just walk in your front door and do what they want. Now you have a situation, they try to walk in your front door, you slam the door in their face and they can't get through. And they go, what's up with this? The number of things I rip off of people who didn't get the memo, who are shocked as hell, is legion. Because they're used to everybody being pawns and just being food. And when people ask me, so what's my purpose here? I said, your purpose here is to be food. But your purpose in the universe is to expand, express, and explore and experience. And you don't have to, and there's no stress about it. No need to be suspicious because the Supreme Consciousness universe, everyone in it, sees themselves as part of the same body. So if my whole body is useful, and using my hands to build things, I'm not going to take a hatchet and then just chop off my left hand, and then all of a sudden I got to do everything with my right hand. And that's what this world is about. It's about you basically crippling yourself. And they started the crippling a long time ago. Many of you have had numerous past expressions. And it started way back then. It didn't start just this lifetime. It started way back then. And right now, you're at a point where you can actually change it. So is that good enough?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank you. We have 6 or 5 minutes left until the 2 hours are done. If there's anyone with one last question, or I can find another question to end the second Ask the Chief forum.
Okay, well, we'll go on with the next question.
You were speaking about consciousness and expression. And in New Age, sometimes they say, oh, you're born from a star. Or what do you think about?
I'm born from the star. Okay, well, again, this is my interpretation of what the information I get. When I get information, I get it from outside of this realm. And then I get information from inside this realm, which tells me what's going on. She picks up things from inside this realm. And then there's times, because of the amount of work that we're doing together, that I'm working on it, she's starting to pick up even more from outside this realm. So Supreme Consciousness, when I talk about Supreme Consciousness, that is the source from which everything derives. Every consciousness comes from that central point, supreme consciousness. So everything that you see out there in the ether, if you're not looking at a hologram, is consciousness. So you see stars, stars are consciousness. As we're on Gaia, Gaia is a consciousness, just as you are a consciousness. Size doesn't matter. It's like, wow, it's humongous, but she is consciousness. This concept of you know, size and all that is just basically illusory program. So as far as like someone being born of a star, no, you're born of supreme consciousness, and you're born of other consciousness that come before you. And that's literally it. You know, they're, you know, being born of a star. We can just even, well, we don't even know most of the test on that. But the reality of the matter is that's some, I don't know where they even get that from. I don't even know if that's New Age or what that nonsense is. But it's basic nonsense. It's limiting. So it's another form of limiting your perception. But if you understand, you come from a, you know, from a central consciousness, central point in this type of universe, you will understand it. That I am of supreme consciousness, therefore I have worth, always have, and always will. And that's why I have that mantra that I tell people. You are of supreme consciousness. So the idea of feeling less is illogical. But it's something that's been pushed by the program in this realm to feel less for whatever reason. I don't feel less than anybody. And I've had individuals try to come in and try to make me feel less, and I say, I am not less. Let's have a conversation and see who's less.
Also, you said that being a star is just an expression.
Star, well, yeah, absolutely. As I said, being a star, as I've said in the past, is an expression, just like being Gaia is an expression. She just had a rough time because of this nonsense, this anomaly in the universe. And that's what this is, it's an anomaly. It has to do with something went wrong with an expression and decided to feed on other consciousness. In other words, become a consciousness cannibal. So those individuals that you probably see out there who are trying to drain you, they're part of what I call the yin of yin program. In other words, they are consciousness cannibals. And their only purpose is to feed on you. And I don't care what career they have or whatever, it's all busy work. They can be a pop star, they're busy, it's busy work. I'm a lawyer, it's busy work. I'm an MD, it's busy work. I'm a whatever, it's all busy work. Just something to preoccupy them while they're supplying food for the density that created this realm. Okay. How much time do we have?
We have 2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes.
We can.
Okay, we can answer one question quickly, if you have another one. Or if someone, inspired to ask a question, can do it, but do it quickly. All right. Speak now.
Or hold your
peace. Okay. All right, let's do this.
Okay. Well, we were talking about the yin of yin program, and also you talked about yin of yin clones. We've had some particular examples of that.
Yeah, I've had a number of personal experiences with yin of yin clones. And yin of yin clones tend to have humongous egos. And they want to grandstand, and they want to be the star of the show, and and they want everyone to look up at them. Look up to them, or at them, look up to them. And literally, that's they're backed by density. So those individuals who are programmed to just give their energy to an idol or something, there's something always behind them that's consuming that energy that's being given. Okay, so anyway, the alarm went off. It's the 2 hours are up. I appreciate everyone's participation, and
Thank you.
and yeah, thank you very much. And I hope you
Thank
all.
you.
Okay, I wish you all well, which I know you will be. Keep up with your sessions. And okay, the end of the second Ask the Chief forum. Ask the Chief forum is now closed. All right.
Bye-bye.
So long, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.